Hi everyone, let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried to explain what you do to your family and friends and gotten a blank look? Or is fear holding you and your online business back right now? Now, if you answered yes to either of those, you're going to love this month's free newsletter. How do you get a copy? Head on over to writecom.com now. And by the way, if you want to make more money with your online business, you are going to love our coffee bean money making idea inside. So head over to Writecom, that's WRITECOME.com, and you'll find the newsletter waiting for you over there. Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very, very welcome to today's podcast episode from writecom.com. And today's podcast episode is entitled Regret is an Impossible Pill to Swallow. Now, let me ask you, have you ever gone on a zipline? Now, just around the time of my 50th birthday, that is what I had signed myself up to. We had gone to Centre Parks here in Ireland, and one of the activities you could go on was a zip line where you go through the trees. So you would probably, start off at ground level. You would probably go up to maybe 15 or 20 feet. And then, you would go from tree to tree, sometimes maybe just on a cable, but maybe just a cable to hold on to. Sometimes you might go through maybe a cargo net. Sometimes you might be walking maybe on wooden posts that are kind of standing up on their edge. So you only have to kind of circle a part at the top of the post for you to stand on, and of course it is wobbling, it's shaking all over the place, and if you haven't got a great love of heights, you are completely terrified. And that was where I'd found myself on the day, as I said, on my 50th birthday. Now, even though the instructor had said to us, you'll be safe, there's no way off this cable. As soon as I put this link on, there's no way you can come off it until someone takes you off on the other side. And that harness that you are in can carry 2.5 tons in weight. Now, even though I knew all of that, I was still petrified. I was still terrified of going along on this zip line, and I didn't want to test that harness just to see if it didn't cope with 2.5 tons weight. Now, I knew I needed to go through it. The day before, I was thinking to myself, as we were going through the park, I seen other people doing the zip line, and the final part on the zip line is where you climb up on a tower that's probably 60 or 70 foot high, and then your cable then goes across the lake. So the final part of the zip line, you're just kind of flying across the lake until someone meets you on the other side and catches you and then takes you off. And the day before, I had been watching people and young kids. I'm always amazed at how fearless young kids are. The adults were the people who were causing the problems. Those were the people who were doing the screaming, who were nervous. But the kids were just racing through it, and it was just no problem to them at all. But I remember looking up at all the people the day before and thinking to myself, something, you are going to be up there tomorrow. And the whole day that was in the back of my mind thinking, God, can you do it? You've got a fear of heights. Will you be able to do that? Will you be able to get as far as that tower and just throw yourself off that tower and just go the 100 feet or whatever it was across to the far side of the lake? And the whole day that was the back of my mind. And even that night I couldn't sleep properly because I knew first thing in the morning I was going to be going on that zip line. And there were a couple of moments in the day where I could have passed it off to Catherine. Catherine isn't as fearful of heights as I am, and Catherine's my wife, by the way, but she could have gone with my son Finn on the day, and she probably would have gone through it and would have been able to do it. So there were moments in the day where I said to myself, something, it's really easy for me just to say, something, I can't do it. Catherine, would you take my place instead and do it? But the reason I didn't do that was because something that happened to me many, many years back. Many years back, I worked with a man called James. Now, me and James were the best of friends. When it came to going out for drinking Saturday nights, we used to go out. When we went on a couple of holidays in my early years, when I had some cash on my first job, me and James would go away on holidays, and we were really, really tight. And, we had worked together for, I don't know how many years, maybe 5 or 6 years or whatever. So we used to do night shift together. We used to work in this mold shop, and what we used to do was used to make computer parts. And so me and James were close. We had a good relationship. But what happened was the factory closed up and James went a separate way from me. I went working in a completely different place, and I hadn't seen him for years. And there was one night when I was going to one of our local discos, and I met one of the fellas that I used to work with, and we were just talking. And he dropped the bombshell that James had got cancer and James hadn't got long to live. And at that night, I couldn't believe it. I just had to sit down because it was just so much of a shock to me that, he hadn't got much long to live and that he had cancer and everything. And, over the next couple of weeks, I had ample opportunity to go to him. A couple of other people said they were going to see him. Did I want to come along? And I said, I'll hold off. I'll go another day. It doesn't suit. Not the right time. I'll go at another time. But really, behind it all, I was chickening out. When I thought to myself, if you go and see James, he's sitting there maybe in a chair or a bed or whatever, he's terminally ill. What are you going to say to him? What if maybe all his hair's gone? Whatever he's going through, maybe chemotherapy, whatever. What can you say to a person at that time? And I kept playing that over my head. And what happened eventually, unfortunately, I ran out of time. I left it too late, and then I got word that James had passed away. Now, I remember going to his funeral a couple of days later, and I remember meeting his girlfriend and just explaining that I just couldn't do it. I just clammed up, I chickened out, and I didn't know what to say to him. And she said to me at the time that he understood that, he knew why I didn't turn up, he seen it from my side. But when I thought about it, I said to myself, It didn't feel good. It felt like, even though I was mourning James, although I was crying at the funeral, I felt like I was a fraud. That, when he needed me most, I didn't show up, and I missed that opportunity. Now, sometimes maybe you might be asked, would there be any moment in life where you would love to get in a time machine, go back in time and change something in the past? And if I had a time machine, that would be one moment that I would love to go back and change, because, those couple of weeks of me, doubting myself and being fearful, I was putting myself, I was looking at it through my eyes rather than looking at it from his eyes. And, those moments of me being fearful, if I had to get over that, I would have got over that moment. We probably would have, talked, maybe laughed, and I probably would have settled after 5 minutes, and we would have probably just got back into the groove that friends, have. And, I would have got over that, and I would have felt better about myself. But because I didn't show up, I lived with regret for years later. I kept playing it over and over in my mind. And because James's birthday is around the same time as my birthday, it's always a reminder that, he's gone, and that I chickened out, and that I didn't go and see him when he needed me most. So with that, at the back of my mind, I said to myself, when it came to the zipline, there's no way I'm going to let Catherine do this, even though I really want her to do this, because I know if I let her do it for me, I am going to regret that decision for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to regret not getting over my fear of heights. I'm going to regret chickening out. I'm going to regret putting someone else in my position when I should have stood up, and I should have, said, I'll do it, and I did it. So because that reason, 24 hours later, I found myself on a zipline. I found myself wobbling. I found myself terrified, looking down at the ground. And, I found some parts of the zipline you had to go maybe from one tree over another tree where there was no cable. There was no, there was no rope for me to hold on. I had to rely on the harness that I was in. And I had to get to that point where I had to climb up this big kind of rope tower, or this kind of rope bridge, all the way to the tower. And I finally got to the top of that tower that was 60 or 70 feet. And I'm looking around, and I found it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I was fearful that I was going to be standing on the edge of this tower, looking down at the ground, and all I could picture was me going splat on the tarmac. But I got over that fear, and they clipped me onto the harness to set me across the lake, and it was fantastic. It was really, really great. Me and my son Finn flying along on two parallel cables, just heading across the lake. And Catherine, my wife, was on the other side, and she had a camera, and she was going to take photographs or record a video or whatever, but she was going to take, grab that moment so I can look back and say, something, I did that. I got over my fear. I did a zip line. And then when we got off the zip line on the other side, Catherine was congratulating me, said we were fantastic and the whole lot. And then she handed the phone over to me and she says, yeah, I got everything recorded here. And the funny thing is, when I went back through the video clippings and the photographs you've taken, other than me and Finn at the very, very start of the zip line, when we had our safety harnesses on, when we had our helmets on, when we were just about to go on it, That is the only video I have. The rest of the pictures and the videos I have is of maybe Catherine, cheering us on, but she's got the camera aimed toward the ground. So I've got pictures of the ground, I've got pictures of the dog on the lead, I've got picture of her cheering us in the background, but I don't have picture of us on the zipline. Now, in the first couple of moments, I was angry because I said, how the hell could you miss this moment? One of the most important things that I've done, and it's not there. But the more I thought about it, it was probably, I think maybe it was life maybe teaching me a lesson or maybe playing a joke on me. Because life kind of said to me, something, you're not going to have something that you can show other people. You can't impress other people by saying, look at me on this video. Look at me in this picture. Aren't I great getting over my fear of heights? Aren't I brilliant? But no, life said to me, something, you're not going to have any memories of that. But there is only one person that is going to remember you on that zip line. And that is you. And that's the most important person. Forget everybody else. You are the most important person, and you are the only person that should be impressed by you getting over your fear of heights, of clipping yourself onto that zip line and going through that for 40 minutes and finally doing that descent across the lake. You are the only person that should be remembering that, and forget everybody else. So, although I was angry in the first couple of moments, the more I thought about it, the more I said, something, forget it. I don't care if I don't have the pictures or the video or whatever. The only one that really is going to remember this is me. And I'm going to remember it because I forced myself through something I didn't think I could do. And because I forced myself through it, I still have those memories, and those memories are going to live with me for years on. So if I was to say anything to you today, it would be that, sometimes we are fearful. Sometimes we don't like doing something. Sometimes we're going to put ourselves in a position where maybe we're going to embarrass ourselves, where we are going to cringe. But you will find that if you force yourself to go through those 5 or 10 minutes of discomfort, that on the other side, you are going to have years of that memory. But if you don't do that thing, if you chicken out, you are going to be met with years of looking back on that moment and saying to yourself, I should have done it. So think on that today. Maybe the thing you're about to do seems uncomfortable, but you're going to feel far, far better about yourself for putting yourself through it. Because as I said, with James and everything, the years of regret afterwards are really, really painful. And, it's better to put yourself through those moments of agony, because you will feel a lot better yourself. A lot better about yourself for the weeks, the months and the years later. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like more from the rightcome.com podcast, be sure to subscribe now for more tips, tricks, and ideas you can use to make more money from your words. See you in the next episode.